ideas have expiration dates. And that really stuck with me. And it made me push really hard to, when we have ideas and products, to just try it, within reason. You don't want to put out a crappy product. But if you've done the research, that there's a void, that you've got a quality product, the price point's right, and the innovation is there, sometimes you have to just try.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 194, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from this week's guest, Jacquelyn Rodgers. Jacquelyn is the founder of Greentop Gifts, which is a wrapping paper and gift company that she founded to fill a void of what was missing during the holidays for people of color. Jacquelyn is also an account manager for a large consumer packaged goods company, and she has more than 12 years of sales experience working to implement new and innovative ways to sell merchandise and market key brands. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about how you can stop hesitating and pull the trigger on your dreams. Jacquelyn is going to take us along her dream driving journey and outline the steps that she took to make Greentop a reality. We're going to discuss the importance of product innovation, market research, having a good story, and why moving quickly can be good. Jacquelyn is also going to share her tips on balancing a passion project while working a 9-to-5, working with a partner successfully, recovering from perfectionism, balancing motherhood, and so much more. I enjoyed this episode, and I know you guys will. And plus, we are going to be doing a giveaway. Jacquelyn is going to be giving away Clarence Claus mugs, as well as their specialty gift wrapping paper. So please make sure that you enter to win. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. We're going to have multiple winners. So I want to make sure that everyone signs up so that you can get some wrapping paper and gifts that are catered towards people of color. If you love this episode, if you enjoy it, please make sure you are sharing it on social. Remember, we are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tag us, post us in your Instagram stories, send a tweet about this episode. Please share and help us build the Dreams and Drive community. All right, let's hear from Jacquelyn. So let's start by going back in time. If I had to say who was the young Jacquelyn, what was inspiring you as a child, how would you respond?
I would say inspiring me as a child, probably my parents. I come from a long line of entrepreneurship. So my dad's always worked for himself in real estate and photography as a school photographer. And my grandparents were both self-employed. So I think as a kid, I always just kind of saw it was around it.
Did you have the entrepreneurial bug as a kid then?
I sold Girl Scout cookies like crazy. My dad would take me to everywhere in town, and I outsold the troop. And I've always been interested in making my own money, whether it was a lemonade stand or any way to get a coin as a kid, my parents would say. So yeah, I would definitely say.
Do you think your parents and your family wanted you to enter entrepreneurship, or were you kind of free to follow your own passions?
I was definitely free to follow my own passion. When I graduated from college at the time, my dad was still doing a lot of residential real estate, and he wanted me to kind of take over the family business. And I really struggled with taking over the family business or getting a job in corporate America to gain more experience. And if I had to go back, I would probably have worked for my dad as opposed to going into corporate. So lessons I would say I've learned.
So why though? Was there something now looking back that there would have been a better benefit or a benefit versus you going the corporate route?
I probably would say I probably should have managed both or attempted to manage both, just because my parents were getting older and just kind of turning those properties to more investment properties as opposed to residential properties. So for me, I think my husband always says, oh, you really should have done both. And so I kind of do regret it, but the experience and exposure that I got from working in corporate have definitely helped me, and I've gained from that as well. So
let's talk about the dream, the young Jacquelyn. What, going into high school or even your early college years, what was the dream?
The dream for me is I knew I wanted to be a business major. I knew I wanted to work in marketing and sales. And I knew that very early on just because of my parents' background in business. So going to school, I knew I wanted to interview and work in corporate, and kind of that was a path I wanted to take. And I knew I wanted to do marketing, but as I got into marketing interviews, I quickly learned as a college student that you've got to do sales. You can't market the product until you sell it. So then it was, oh, you got to go get your MBA if you really want to do marketing. So I kind of got into sales and I just loved it. And I've done it for like 12 years.
Okay, so we definitely will get into that part of your journey. So you went to Clark Atlanta, you graduated, did you eventually go straight into corporate then after graduating?
I did. Right after school, I started working with a large CPG company and working in sales with them right after graduation.
So what do you think were some of the biggest business lessons or just lessons about sales that you learned working at this CPG?
Biggest lessons that I've learned in my 12 years, I would say the first one is you've got to be like driven on your own. You've got to be a self-starter. My first job, I worked from home. I worked retail. I got in my car and drove around the stores, and there was no office to check into, no manager checking over my shoulder. And so it's kind of an entrepreneurial environment. So that was kind of the first one, is just being a self-starter. And I think that can be really hard for students that are like fresh out of college.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I couldn't imagine, right? Like, wait, I got to like figure my own hours out, or I have to manage my day. It seems like it could be a little bit intimidating and maybe overwhelming. I mean, at least for me, it might have been.
No, it wasn't. I've always worked from home and kind of worked in an office maybe for a year about. So being a self-starter is kind of something that came naturally to me. And I guess you don't, in sales, if you don't hit the number and you don't make the sale, then, you don't get paid. So it's kind of, you have to be self-sufficient.
I've always wondered, though, at these big companies where you're working in the sales job, what was the thing that you were learning behind the scenes about what drives business?
There's a lot of moving parts. I would say you have to really move with speed. You've got to be self-sufficient. And working in CPG, really understanding how products or how they start from innovation all the way to making their way to the shelf. So I think I've really learned a lot about that entire process, from the inception of the product all the way to getting it on the shelf and to selling it and getting it out to consumers. So
let's talk about the beginning of Greentop Gifts, right? Was this, I know you had your son and you wanted to provide him, and you wanted to wrap his gifts with something that resonated with him, but you weren't able to find any products that match what you wanted, right?
Right. So I had my son in 2014. And then in 2015, I was like, I really want this product. I want paper. It started really as a passion project for myself, something that I wanted for my son, not for anybody else. Didn't really think about starting a company. And I told my husband, I can't find this paper. Like, I've asked my friends, they've looked in like places that have a larger population of people of color, outside of where we live, and no one could find any paper. And so I was content with creating something on Photoshop, going to Kinko's and printing it myself to just like wrap my son's gifts. That's really where I was with the idea. And then the more I started to research and look at like wrapping paper and design, I was like, oh, this could be something that other people may want. So we did some focus groups, and friends were like, oh yeah, I'd definitely buy that. And then I started looking at the market and the industry and just how much wrapping paper sells. And it was like, oh, there's a void here. There's an opportunity. And it kind of just grew from that.
So what was the moment for you where you started to invest heavily in it and actually to make it something that you could scale? Because, you could have done this on a smaller scale, but when did you start realizing that, all right, let's see if I put more time into it, what could happen?
So I had my son in 2014, 2015. I wanted it. We launched the business in 2016. But in 2015, between the fall, that Christmas until the following October when we launched in 16, I started looking at the industry, reaching out to manufacturers, and I learned that quickly you can't really do this at a small scale. It's not like one of those made on demand type products for the quality of paper that I wanted. So the runs are in like, large 1,000-sheet runs. They're not like you can order onesies and twosies. So it was one of those things where I came to my husband, I was like, okay, I think I found a manufacturer. This is the cost, and we've got to find a place to store 4 pallets. And like a semi truck pulled up to our garage and unloaded 4 pallets. And so we parked our cars in the driveway for a few months. But that was typically like, that's how it started. It was something that I knew I couldn't do it at a small scale, based on the paper and the quality and the product that I wanted.
You know what's interesting? I would be nervous, especially when you have to invest in such large runs early on. You also, I'm guessing, you had to make sure you got the design right? Because what if you invested all this money into this wrapping paper and this design and no one bought it? So what was your process for figuring out the right designs?
That is a great question. So I don't draw very well at all. Like I'm creative. I know what I like. I can play around in Photoshop and Illustrator, but I physically could not draw our character, Clarence. So I reached out to illustrators and looked online and did a lot of interviews and sent out a lot of non-disclosures and talked to people. And I knew what I wanted him to look like. I knew I wanted him to look magical. I wanted him to appeal to children. I wanted him to appeal to adults. And I knew exactly, like, I wanted him to be chocolatey. I wanted there to not be any doubt this was a Santa that was African American. Like, that was the main goal. Because sometimes when you go in the store, you're like, is that Santa? Is he brown? Is he maybe? I can't tell. And when I found the illustrator that did similar work that I thought could bring the Clarence clause that we had to life, I sent him a really long email of just like very detailed descriptions of what I wanted him to look like. And on the first iteration of what he sent back, it was perfect. We made no changes to it.
What?
It was
you really lucked out there. That's amazing.
I will say I definitely did get lucky. So then once we got the image, then it was creating the design on the actual paper, making sure that was right to the dimensions, sending that to the manufacturer. They sent me a proof, and the proof was like not the final product. So it still wasn't like, it was a proof. It wasn't going to be the exact same texture. I knew the print would look a little different, but I had to pull the trigger and go for it. So I was confident enough in that proof and the manufacturer and the other samples that they had sent. And I just pulled the trigger, and then I didn't see the final product until the semi truck backed it up on the 4 pallets and put it in my garage.
So during that time, do you remember how long it was that it took from, saying the okay and then getting that final proof?
From working with the illustrator until getting the final proof, it was maybe 3 months, 3 or 4 months. We were moving fast because it was one of those things where, I wanted it and I was like, I could wait until next Christmas and launch this business, or we can do it now. And I wanted it now. So in hindsight, I probably moved really quick, but it was one of those things where I just pulled the trigger. We just went for it.
No, and I think that's really important, because I think a lot of times we as dream drivers, right, we'll get stuck in these ideas, and it's in the execution that actually makes the dream drive, right? So what tips would you have for that person who is hesitant about pulling the trigger and really doubting the dream?
I would say I heard a quote a while ago, and it was, ideas have expiration dates. And that really stuck with me. And it made me push really hard to, when we have ideas and products, to just try it, within reason. You don't want to put out a crappy product. But if you've done the research, that there's a void, that you've got a quality product, the price point's right, and the innovation is there. Sometimes you have to just try. You have to and if you've invested wisely, then sometimes you just have to pull the trigger and try. So for me, I would definitely say don't hold on to it, because sometimes when you do hold on to it, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Somebody else will come up with the idea or something very similar to it, and you'll be there going, dang it, I should have done it. So I think that's the main one for me, is just pull the trigger, go for it.
So what does market research look like for a gift wrapping company, right? Were you out there sending people surveys? Who were you polling? How did you figure out your audience?
So I sent out, moms are our biggest, purchaser. Moms are for most products, moms are the ones who are in the store, the grocery store, the Target, wherever they are. They may not be the end consumer, but they're definitely the purchaser of the product. They're buying for their husband, they're buying for their kid, they're buying for themselves. And that was kind of who we focused on. And in addition to moms, because they're also what I call panks, those, professional aunts, no kids. And they're a huge consumer too, because they have disposable income and they get to just spoil those kids and send them back home to their parents. Whether it's an auntie or if it's a birth aunt, a aunt by blood. So those are the two that we really looked out to. And I emailed, and we did SurveyMonkey and lots of focus groups where we asked them about where they shopped, what they spent, what items they looked for, was providing products that represented their children important to them, and kind of got all of that feedback. And then from there, analyzing the data, which I was a junior analyst and account manager. And so I had to kind of do a lot of that in my daytime role. So using those skills. And then we were able to just look at that research and then go out into the field and look at the price for paper and look at what other people were selling and online selling to kind of just get as much information before we launched.
Was there an aha moment that you had during this market research period that if you hadn't had done it, you probably would have gone a different path?
What we've done different is selling paper online, what people typically don't do. People typically buy paper in the store. It's a last minute purchase. So for us, it's kind of changing it on its head of buying ahead, buying advance. People are buying more products online. It's a convenience. And a lot of people told us up front, I don't think anybody's going to buy wrapping paper online. I don't do it now. I don't think I will. So for us, it was kind of, well, let's change that. Let's change the way people go about this industry. And I think that's what we've kind of started to do.
That's amazing. And I think it also just shows the importance of being innovative, where if people aren't doing it, that means there's probably a way for you to fit yourself into the market and stand out. So you got the pallets, they're in your garage. Now what?
Got the products, they're in our garage. We had a marketing plan. I knew how I wanted to, pitch the paper, sending it out to mailers, influencers, sharing it online. We had done some videos with the company, and we created this kind of story. And I think it's really important for your product that when it has a good story and a message, people gravitate to it. And so that's really what worked for us in our first year. We had this video that we put on Facebook, and I don't want to say it went viral, but it got over 100,000 views in like a few days. And that kind of just spread like fire, and the orders started to come in. And very quickly, I realized I could not do this at night after my full-time job with a toddler.
So you were doing all the fulfillment yourself?
Yes. So we launched October 10th. It was actually my husband's birthday. And by the week before Black Friday, I was literally packing orders every night in my garage. And it was me, and then my aunt would come over and help me until my husband got home. And then my husband, my aunt, and I would pack. And then my mom would come over and watch our son while we packed orders. And that was kind of like the routine we did until it was, okay, we physically can't. I was concerned about order fulfillment being on time to people because we had told them they'd get it in so many days. And so then I was like, we need to start interviewing fulfillment companies. And so we literally signed on with a fulfillment company a few days before Black Friday the first year. And then the paper all left our garage and went to fulfillment company, and they were able to get the orders out quickly, unlike we were unable to do it. And then we got some press that really sped up the orders. And so it was kind of like right in the nick of time.
Wow, that is definitely a story. So at what point did you realize, or how did you go about scaling and getting out, what am I saying? Because I'm thinking right now you work with a fulfillment center, right? To get your orders out. What was that transition process like for you?
Well, I have enough knowledge to be dangerous based on my day job of just like trucks and orders and shipping and warehouses. So I knew a little bit about, the pallets, the high, the tie, delivery of the trucks, having an unload appointment, working with transit. And so I had enough knowledge to, when I went in with the fulfillment companies, interviewers and understanding pick, pack, and ship companies and how they kind of worked. And then from there, it was just finding a company that we trusted with our product that would give us the best rates, that would, get our product out on time, that would pack it and care for it, because it's wrapping paper. Nobody wants to get it dented up or wrinkled or
it's ruined. It's like you can't have ripped wrapping paper.
It's not one of those things you're like, oh, I can still use it. I can open it and still use it. You can't. So it has to get there, and it has to get there undamaged. So that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure. And it's for me, it's all about presentation, and working in sales. Customer service was really important to me. So I wanted people to be happy with the product that they got and the end result. So because to us, it's a premium product. It's a little pricier than regular paper. So we wanted to make sure people were definitely happy with their purchase.
So you mentioned something, and I think it's really valuable, because I think a lot of us sometimes wonder, like, how do you balance a full-time job and your entrepreneurial endeavors? So it's funny that you mentioned working at a job that allowed you to learn a little bit more about these processes that are helping your business. So when I quit my job in August 2018, but I was working at an e-commerce fulfillment company. And I always tell myself, like, during the time, I thought it was such an unsexy job. But now that I'm out of it, there's so much that I've learned just about, what it takes to get orders in and out the door, because a lot of people now aren't realizing that if you don't get that part of your business down, you're screwed, right? What tips or what did you do so that you were able to balance having the full-time job and entrepreneurship? Was it hard, or, what was your approach to that?
Well, first of all, congrats to you on quitting your day job.
Thank you. Listen, I'm kind of not regretting it. It's a process.
Congrats. When someone tells me they quit their job, I'm like, congratulations. Because I have not done that. I'm still working my day job.
It's a long story, but okay.
Another podcast. Yes. But definitely, I know I love my daytime job, and I've been passionate about it for a while. And for Greentop, I definitely would say, to answer your question, the skills that I've learned have definitely helped me. They've helped me to grow the business. There are moments where I'm like, oh, this is how I know how to do this because of this. Or, I do this in my day job. It translates into, my business, with negotiating of, product, or working with other customers, or, other entities that we use in the business. So that's definitely helped us.
So when it comes to balancing, though, how were you able to, did your job know about Greentops? Sorry, Greentop?
Yeah, they know. They definitely know. But for me, balancing has definitely been, I work my day job, which requires me to travel some too. And then at nights, I would definitely just, as soon as I finished that, I would get our son to bed. We'd eat dinner, I'd cook, I'd get our son to bed. My husband and I would chat, hang out, watch some TV, PTI, whatever it is we're watching. And then I would just grind at night on the website, on our marketing plan, on our shipping costs, on developing, our SEO and making sure the site had that up to date. If it was press or trying to get press, social media, making sure that was up to date, taking pictures of the product, editing the product. I did all of that in the very beginning. My husband does the finance side of it. But other than that, from start to finish, it was pretty much the two of us in the first year until we got the fulfillment company. We worked with a graphic designer and an illustrator, but outside of that, that was it. We've added now a social media manager, someone that does our PR, and the fulfillment company. But there's still a lot that the two of us have to do for the business. So it's really a night.
So what was your husband's role in this? 'Cause I definitely don't want to leave him out of the story, right? How important has having your husband as your, what's his role in the company? I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. Is he co-founder?
He's co-founder.
Okay.
Works on the finances, and he's definitely involved in the company. At first, he was kind of like, I don't know if this is legit, like if this is a business that's going to sustain. He's a numbers guy.
He was a low-key hater, or he just was hesitating?
He's a numbers guy.
Okay.
So for him, it had to make sense, like literally. And so once he started looking at the data and looking at the industry and marketing and, the numbers, once the numbers made sense, then he was like, okay, there's an opportunity here. But for me, just like, I want paper for our son. And he's like, what are we talking about?
Because I'm assuming that you guys had to have some kind of startup capital, or you were investing some of your personal funds in the beginning, right?
Right. We definitely invested our personal funds in the beginning. We've taken a few friends that have invested in the company, but for the most part, we've self-funded. And that is one of those things where when you're using your personal money, I think that forces you you're even more driven to make the end product work. And that's definitely been kind of our drive is, these are our funds, it's our money, and we don't want to just like burn it up. But yeah, in the beginning, that was kind of how it went.
But it's good that, I think that every team needs balance, and it's good that you were the creative, right? But you also had this business background and you also knew your stuff, but just having that person that was kind of like your check, like, making sure that everything worked out, because sometimes you could go totally left and never look at the numbers, which I think a lot of creators sometimes get stuck with because it's not our natural inclination to gear towards the finances and all that data stuff. So it's really, really important, if you're not the person who is a stickler for the details, to at least have somebody on your team.
Definitely. And we are like total with polar opposites in that regards. Like I'm in the marketing, the creative side. He's in the finance and the numbers. So we would get like, major press if it was like when we were featured in Oprah magazine, and I would be like, oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever. And he would be like, it's not the best thing ever until the orders come in. He's completely like about the numbers. And I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. Let's celebrate. And he's like, no, let's not celebrate yet. Let's see the orders come in. And that's good. I don't want to make it sound like he's a hater. He's not. He's just about the numbers, and that's important. I was joking when I said that. I'm just saying it for myself. But you need that balance. And when you're working with your spouse, we communicate differently. I wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning, and I've got a list of questions that I've thought about during the night or in the as soon as I woke up, and I'm rattling them off to him. And he's like not ready to talk. But then at 10 o'clock at night, he's like got his list and he's ready to rattle off his questions. So we had to figure out how we could work together as, working together with your partner. That you have to figure out how to effectively communicate and to maintain your marriage and your business. So we've learned how to do that.
You mentioned something that I think is really important for all of us to consider and understand is you mentioned that you had that feature in Oprah magazine, and he said, it might not be a win until you look at the numbers. And, any win, I think in Oprah magazine, that exposure is just really, really good. But what marketing or press opportunity that you guys did, do you remember really brought you the most in sales? Or was something that really helped build your customer pipeline? Was there a specific strategy or tactic that you can remember?
I would say for us, what got us out there would be the video on social media. Mm-hmm. What got like people aware of the product, like, oh, this exists. What got us orders, I would say, was our first bit of press with NBC Black. And that was on their website. And then some of the NBC News affiliates picked it up and ran it on the news, like on the actual television. Mm-hmm. And that press is what got like the orders, for us. And a lot of times, like you'll get press and people think, oh, this is awesome. Like, oh, you were in Oprah. Like, that's crazy. You must be like selling out, or you were in people.com. Like, but they don't realize sometimes all press doesn't equal sales. It's good press. It's good to get people aware of the product, and we're excited for all press, or not all press, but press is good. Mm-hmm. But I think that's important for people to know, especially entrepreneurs. Like, don't be caught up in if a celebrity has your product. It may be 10,000 or 1,000 moms that buy it that generate more revenue than one celebrity. You know what I mean? Like being mindful of that.
And I think also knowing your audience. So NBC Black, the audience is your audience, right? Well, yes. It's comprised of your audience. So sometimes those niche outlets are probably where you'll, like the further niche you can go is the better sometimes.
Yes.
So, one of the things that when you think about gift wrapping paper, and your main character is Clarence Claus. So I'm guessing it's around Christmas time that you may get a lot of orders. How do you balance the seasonality fluctuation? So, are people ordering in the spring, or how are you getting people to order year round when your main wrapping paper is Clarence Claus?
So definitely our company is 365 days a year, but the majority of our business is obviously done during Christmas.
Holiday, yeah.
But the way we go about it is we do a big spike in January after Christmas sales, which are going on now. And then we do like a Christmas in July. And then it's just really about finding ways to stay relevant and keep the impressions with our customers throughout the year. We try to be active during other holidays and seasons, not so much with Clarence, but just under the Greentop Gifts brand, just to stay relevant so that they don't forget us and we stay top of mind. In addition to, we hope to expand this season to other products and items outside of Christmas.
That's so important. Why did you wait? So you guys launched in 2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit of waiting to expand the product line?
For us, it was making sure it wasn't just a one-time pop. It wasn't just lightning in the bottle, but people actually had an interest and would come back and buy it again. And I didn't want to grow our product assortment too big and people have, they're over indexing and looking at what the shopping cart, they're, I don't know what to put in the cart, or I've reached the max I want to spend. And so for me, it was making sure that we executed on the first launch before we over expanded into other products.
How did your team stay focused during this time? Because I know as an entrepreneur, you can get social media crazy, seeing what all these other people are doing. But what was your key to making sure that you weren't getting distracted?
There are a few other smaller companies that have popped up and have said they can't find what we now sell. So, I think the main thing is having a quality product, providing customer service, and having a strong story have been really important for us. And that's kind of what has sustained us and kept us growing and going, and not getting distracted. I've kind of had my blinders on. You can look at all different types of companies and go, or they're doing this, or, they're spending this, or, this influencer, shared their post, or, this celebrity wore this. You've got to just have a quality product and, focus on your customers. And I feel like if you do that well, it will grow. It may not grow overnight, but people will have a positive experience from their order and their purchase and tell more people about it. So you just can't get caught up in it. It's easy. The first year I was definitely, the first year I was so emotional. Like if somebody was like, I hate this, or, I don't like this paper, or, why is it not coming this color, or my order came a day late. And that's not in my capacity to control because of UPS or the post office. I was so emotionally attached to it and wanted to fix it and make it right. And I still do, but I've learned to kind of like take some of the emotion out of it and know that it is a business and these things happen and you can't please every customer, even though I really, really, really want to.
Mm-hmm. And, I think that understanding those customers' complaints is important because there's definitely lessons you can learn from that as well. Jacquelyn, thinking about this journey that you've been on with Greentop Gifts, what do you think has been one of the biggest roadblocks or hurdles that you have had to navigate?
I would say we had some fulfillment issues last year, and they were kind of like mid of the season, and I had no control over it. Like I couldn't move. I was stuck where I was, and we had to figure it out. And I learned in year 2, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about fulfillment. And in year 3, I asked different questions. I guess I put too much trust into a service or a service. And I really learned a lot. So sometimes even though things don't go the way you expect them to, or the way you're told they're going to go, you can learn from that and then adapt the next year. So all issues or, challenges that you face aren't bad. You can learn from them. I definitely learned in year 2.
So I have a listener question. I sometimes ask our listeners to just give us broad related questions that we can ask our guests. So this listener, this is coming from Kaisha Jones. I hope I'm saying her name right. And she asks what are your tips for recovering from failure or perfectionism?
I would say for me, the thing I would say, my husband talks about, we always watch a lot of football in our house. And I always talk with him about short-term memory. Quarterbacks have to have short-term memory because you mess up and you got to forget it. And I think that's one thing people have to do. Like you mess up, you learn from it, but you can't like sit in it. You got to adapt and change and then learn from your mistake and adjust and move on. And that's the one thing that I think that I have had to learn to do.
Okay, I think that's really important. I know sometimes if you get stuck in that making that wrong turn, you'll never make the right turn, and you can literally, right, you'll go nowhere. When I think about the dream driving metaphor, you'll get stuck in neutral, and neutral, you're not going anywhere. Even reversing is better than being in neutral at times. So I know, Jacquelyn, in the past month, you welcomed a new addition to your family, a baby girl. How has motherhood in general, thinking about, you are a wife, you are an entrepreneur, you are you have a job, and how do you think motherhood plays into your entrepreneurial journey?
For me, I think it definitely sparked my company, right? Mm-hmm. It was, I think a lot of moms want products and want things, they can't find it, and they create it. If you look at a lot of businesses that are tailored around children, it comes from a void that a mom was trying to feel, something she wanted for herself she couldn't find. So for me, it definitely sparked our company. And so I think motherhood has influenced my journey, definitely because I wanted representation for my son. I think it's really important for children to see images that look like them and reflect them in everyday life, even in Santa Claus. And I'm very intentional about the books that we read our son, the shows he watches, to make sure he sees representation of himself, especially is so important for our little Black boys. And now having a daughter, it's important for her as well. And just not children of color. It's important for children who have glasses to see other children in glasses, if children that have freckles or gaps, or it's important for them to see that, if a children that has, in a wheelchair, or has a brace on their foot, it's important for them to see that in books, on television. And for me, I think that's how motherhood has really impacted me, because it's made me more aware of what I expose my child to.
So this is just, I'm just wondering, is the dream ever to go full time, or do you think you'll be able to, do you enjoy having the 9 to 5 and also this other passion, this entrepreneurial passion as well?
I think that I love my day job. It's fulfilling and I really enjoy it. I love the company that I work for, but I also love Greentop. So I think if it makes sense in both meanings of the word at some point, then definitely, I would love to do it full time. But for the moment, I like my day job too.
And there is, I think a lot of people who have entrepreneurial passions and these ideas, sometimes you think you have to give up one for the other. And I love stories similar to yours where you're able to do both, right? Like it's okay if you like having a 9 to 5. It's okay if you don't like having a 9 to 5 and want to do your thing full time. And I just want to really, really emphasize that your story is your story, because so many of us get caught up in, like what we were saying earlier, what others are doing. Like, what's that thing that do you have any routines or any self-care practices to keep yourself centered and to make sure that you're refueling every day and staying focused?
I'd say for me, the most important thing that I do is before bed is I write like this long, lengthy brain dump to-do list. And that is kind of like getting it out of my head onto paper so I can sleep peacefully and not toss and turn and think about, I got to do this, or, how am I going to do that? Or how are we going to adjust to this? Or how am I going to make sure that order gets placed? I need to call this person or respond back to this email. And I will sit in bed and toss and turn with all of that in my head, or wake up at 4 a.m. with that on my brain. So making a brain dump definitely keeps me clear and focused, because then I can get it out of my head and sleep restfully. Because if I don't get sleep, I am not good for anyone. So that's kind of the first thing that I do. As there's always a to-do list, if it's in my phone, in my notes, or it's on a sheet of paper. And then the next thing would be, for self-care, it's just making time for yourself. For me, it's working out. And I'm excited now I can go back to working out after having this baby. I've had to wait 6 weeks, but now I'm anxious to get back. And for me, it's not so much about, a snatching back or, losing the weight. It's really just because there's no phone, there's no email. You're just unplugged, and that's a release. So for me, working out is a release, and it's time to myself and no one else. And I feel really good after the fact. I dread going, but I feel good after the fact.
So what's the dream now for Jacquelyn and Greentop Gifts? What's next on the horizon?
I definitely want to expand the line. We want to get more impressions and share clearance with more people. I think there's still a lot of people out there who don't know about our brand, and we want to get our brand to them. So we've got some things lined up for 2019 that we're really excited about, and hopefully to continue to grow into other holidays and occasions. But it was definitely about making sure the time was right to do that.
When thinking about this dream driving journey and all that you've personally learned about yourself, what do you think was the biggest thing you learned about your own ability to succeed?
I think for me, I had a hard time in the beginning when we started Greentop, giving things up and letting people do them that may be better at it than I am. Simply because, when you start a business, it's your baby, right? Mm-hmm. And I just really I was like, oh no, I can do this. And for social media, when I gave that up and we hired someone, she's awesome. She does an excellent job for us. But in the beginning, I could find myself sending her emails or suggestions. And I was like, this girl's gonna quit. Like she's gonna be done with me. She's like, she won't let me do it. Like, and so for me, it was kind of just pulling back, letting her do it, and then like letting go, which is sometimes hard because you want to be in the thick of it because it's yours and you want to make sure that they can understand and do it just like you want it. So that was hard for me. But once I learned to let go, people are able to do it and do it well.
So can you tell our dream drivers where they can find you online if they want to learn more about Greentop Gifts?
We are on social media at Greentop Gifts on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And our website is greentopgifts.com. And we sell 365 days a year online.
And we're going to be doing a giveaway. I forgot to mention that. I think we're going to do some rolls of the gift wrapping paper and mugs, right?
Yes. So we're going to do rolls of paper of each style, so 6 different styles, and then some coffee mugs. So we're going to get that out. So it'll be a nice gift.
That's going to be exciting. And our dream drivers can go to dreamsanddrive.com/win to enter. And I really, you guys heard Jacquelyn's story. You heard just how much this brand means to her. So definitely enter the contest and you could possibly win your own Greentop Gifts. So Jackie, let's go to our lightning round. This part of the interview, I'm going to give you a quick prompt and just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor. Okay?
Okay. Disclaimer. I have a newborn baby. My brain is sleep deprived. Let's go.
All right. First word, park.
Resting.
Reverse.
Reset.
Neutral.
Stagnant.
Drive.
Engaged.
That was good, girl. I couldn't even tell. I couldn't tell that. And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So Jackie, can you tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
Things they need. Okay. I think you definitely need industry knowledge, whatever industry you're going into. If it's wrapping paper, t-shirts, I don't know, purses, whatever you're selling, you need to understand the category you're playing in. I think that's really important. Knowing what innovation is out there, so that you can move with speed, so you understand the shipping of that product or the, who else plays in the market and what their offerings are and how yours can be different. So I think industry knowledge is super important, and people start companies and don't have that knowledge. Let's see, what else? Finding the right people to speak your brand and represent your brand that understand it. So for us, as I said before, like our social media person, she understands our brand. She knows our brand voice, and that's really important. Mm-hmm. The graphic designer that we work with, our PR person, so that they could link us with other partnerships or, people like you with Dreams and Drive, that we can work with, and they understand our brand and who we are. I think that's really important. And knowing what your brand is yourself before that. And then lastly, I think, again, as I mentioned before, having short-term memory, like learning from your mistakes, adapt and move on. You can't remain stagnant and just kind of sit in them, because you'll get nowhere. So I think that's really important.
So bonus question, because you mentioning industry knowledge really made me remember this. Do you have a favorite business resource or tool that you cannot live without?
A resource or tool? I'd probably say my iPhone. And I would say, that and email. And it seems bad to say those, but for me, there's no maternity leave when you have an entrepreneurial company. Like I had our daughter, and I literally was sending emails from the bed in the hospital, which sounds horrible, but it was the thick of our season, Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, that's kind of the tool that I use the most. And that is my phone and email. As far as outside of that, I'm just kind of being aware and like checking the retail and looking at the other competitors and understanding what innovation's out there. I think that's really important. So.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. This has been such a great conversation. I'm about to go start me a retail business right now. Just playing. I think I'll stick to what I do best, which is talking. But thank you so much. And I really hope that our dream drivers are inspired, or as inspired as I was by this conversation.
Awesome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 194 with Jacquelyn. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. And as we mentioned at the end of this episode, don't forget to enter to win some Greentop gifts yourself, all right? Go to dreamsanddrive.com/win, dreamsanddrive.com/win to enter. We're going to have multiple winners, so please, please, please make sure you guys enter today. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend. I love when you guys are sharing on social especially. You can find us across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dreams and Drive. And thank you to everybody who's been submitting pitches. I am looking, especially in Q2, I'm looking to interview people who have unconventional dreams. So people who are doing unique and cool things. I want to start showcasing these type of dreams because I think a lot of us sometimes have these far out things that we want to achieve. So let's start hearing from people who are able to put these quote unquote crazy ideas of theirs into drive. To submit a pitch, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. That's dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. Please make sure that you are subscribed to us wherever you're listening and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes especially. Those reviews really help increase our ratings and they also help other people who are trying to figure out if they should listen to the show. I appreciate it every time one of you guys leaves a review and also when you guys leave a rating. Dreams and Drive merchandise is still on sale, so if you want to catch the extra low price for some of our Dreams and Drive crew necks and hoodies, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. Once again, Dream Drivers, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 195. Bye, guys.